Well, here we go, another edition of Racing World, day 2 of the IndyCar test for 2026 at the IMS Oval. A slight delay in the start of proceedings today due to some heavy rain overnight. Again, very typical of what you get in Indiana at this time of the year, including the tornado warnings. But by and large, I actually came away from today slightly underwhelmed by everything. Sure, there was a lot that happened and a lot going on, but I don't know, I have this feeling that some people weren't playing the full hand. It was interesting to see a lot of the Honda entries not really running as strong as they had on the first day. Yes, the conditions were different. It was a lot colder, it was more overcast, there was more wind. Whether any of those factors played a part, I don't know. That they have in the past, for sure. Wind is a big factor at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So you can't read into it. It is a test after all, and we must remember that it is a test. It's not qualifying, it's not the race, it's a test. So you can take out of it what you can. I think if you go away unhappy after this test, then you've got some issues that you've got to deal with, and you really are in a race against time. If you go away happy, then it can only either get better or maybe there is a variable in there. Anyway, we've got some pictures again today for you, and we hear from a few people as well, so let's get right into it. So as I said, the day was a little bit more overcast than what it had been yesterday. Still a fair few people that came in to have a good look, and one of those great points is up on those mounds. Palou Award was all set to go, and I'm still holding high hopes for him this season or in this race. Old teammates catching up, Joseph Newgarden and Will Power. I'm sure there was some interesting conversations that took place there, that's for sure, and a lot of gamesmanship as well. Dixon back in the car. He performed pretty well yesterday, but again, he was one of those people that I put in that I was underwhelmed by today. It just didn't really seem to come together, and it ended up sort of chasing his tail a little bit, I felt, and certainly not what we'd seen in the past. But the session got underway. Admit it was a bit late, but it did get underway, and there were plenty of takers to get out there early on. There were plenty that didn't, which is normal par for the course. And the strange thing is this is roughly the time of day that the race would happen. So you'd think that you'd want to be out there during that period of time. Anyway, Elio was back into it again, doing Elio things like only Elio can, and I think that this entry is shaping together. As I've said, I'd love to see the 5 wins for Elio. It's always a possibility. MSR certainly putting a lot of hope into Elio, that's for sure. Will Power was back on track, and again he was another one of these Honda entries that just didn't seem to do as well as what he'd done yesterday. I don't know whether it's a Honda thing or not, so I'm not pointing the finger at anybody in particular, but I just didn't see the Honda type power that we'd seen yesterday. Then we had a bit of pack running, which was always good. There was plenty going on. Graham Rahal was in amongst it and had some pace, so he'd been fairly relieved over that. The MSR cars were back in it as well, and then we had what's become quite common the last day or so, and that was all 3 Penske's running together. Newgarden dropped them off in this section, but he then pitted and came back out again later on. But Malukas and McLaughlin, they seemed quite comfortable doing what they were doing. Catherine Legg, well, bit of a smoky old start there, that's for sure. But finally, she turned enough laps in the refresher program to then get into the open test and the rest of qualifying and everything else that takes place for the Indy 500. As I've said, she is the 33rd and final entry for this year's race. Great shame that there isn't going to be a bump, but anyway, she's in the field now in the AJ Foyt HMD combined entry. Sato had a bit of a run-in with a Fox at turn 1. Fox trying to leap up over the top of the safety barrier to get out of the way at a couple of 100 miles an hour when a car's coming at you. Poor old Mr. Fox. This is the second day that we've had animals on the track, and I'm sure IMS need to look into this. Back to the Penske boys, running as a pack of 3 again. That's all they seem to want to do in the early stages. They did do some overall running. Newgarden was probably the car that did the least amount of running, but at the end of the day they did get in amongst it as well. But they were very content to run as a pack of 3, and we've seen this time and time again from Penske, and it's a set game plan that they seem to have. Jack Harvey was the only other person to bring out the yellow apart from Sato, but this one was fairly obvious, and it was some sort of engine issue. There was a bit of flame and everything. Put hopes to the rest of the day going out the door for Harvey, but I think Dreyer Reinbold go away pretty happy when you consider where Harvey is over the last couple of days, and then also where Daly is. So It's better to have these things happen now than later on, that's for sure. Back to the pack running again. There was plenty of people in there. Kirkwood was in there, all sorts of people, but we didn't see much. But then this incident there, you see the green car of Haga nearly getting hit by Dixon as they're using the proper race pit in. And I think there was a bit of confusion about what was going on there. And that was not the only incident that Dennis Haga was caught up in. And then finally the day ended as the checkered flag came out and the track now goes quiet for another week until the Grand Prix. A guy that turned quite a few laps, but not as many as I thought he was going to, was last year's winner, Alex Palou. It's strange, again, this Ganassi thing, I'm not quite sure what's going on, because Dixon certainly seemed to be off the pace a lot of the time, and they weren't the times of speeds that we were seeing yesterday. But Palou, he got himself right up there in the timesheets again, and I think at the end of the day, as you'll tell by this interview, he was a pretty happy chap.
Really happy. Yeah, I mean, it's great to be back. Yeah, we've been having all these meetings and ideas about how to make the car faster or how to make even driving better. So it's good to be here at the track, try a couple stuff, and even if only a couple worked, it's good. So yeah, looking forward to being back here in a couple of weeks on that side. And yeah, it was a great day for CGR today.
To the end of day press conference next, and first up was Conor Daly. Now, I was really looking forward to being able to hear from Conor. He kind of never minces his words at all, and it's been quite a revelation, I believe anyway, to have him in the timesheets, at the top end of the timesheets, 2 days in a row. So clearly Dreyer Reinbold and Conor got their thing together, but Jack Harvey's there with Dreyer Reinbold as well, and they were looking good until that engine failure, we presume. Anyway, it was great to hear from Conor. I think he really talks from the hip. You never get any sort of bullshit type answer. You get the true answer. So here we are with Conor at the end of day press conference.
You know, we know how it is testing. You don't really know, but you know, no one shows up here to not do any work. You know what I mean? So everyone is trying, and they're trying to learn and trying to figure out things for when we get to May. But yeah, I mean, we clearly every day we kind of just went out and were fast. So that's makes life easier on me, because we weren't like, that wasn't our, we weren't like, oh, we're going to be P1 every day. It's like, no, we had a list of things that we wanted to do, and we got through our list, got through a lot of lists, and that's, that's what it's all about. So if we're fast while doing that, then awesome.
Pretty well sums it up, doesn't he? The fact that they didn't intend to necessarily be as fast as they were, but fast is good, fast is happy, and he's certainly a happy camper. So they go away ticking quite a lot of boxes before the teams get back in terms of getting set up for the 500. He's one of those entries that doesn't do the Grand Prix. Another entry not doing the Grand Prix, Sato. Obviously he had the run-in with the Fox. That would have been a bit of a moment. We'll hear from him about that. But more importantly, he was also the quickest of the Rahal cars. He had a crash this time last year in the Rahal car, which set the whole program back a bit, and he cracked a few ribs and stuff as well. But he was looking in really good form. He seemed very, very comfortable as a two-time winner of this race.
Productive 2 days, and I think you can statement to, I think every single team was a similar feeling that fortunate to be have a good weather. It's been a little bit it's like a little bit nervous in overnight in the torrential rain, but really good condition. Obviously IMS did everything to prepare for us. It's good, like a exit turn 2, very smooth. We knew it from fall test, but it's been a pleasure to come back in IMS and make us really happy. And in terms of our team, I think over the course of the winter, I think the team did a really, really good job. I think now as a 4 cars and the meticulous job of the quality control, the build spec is a very, very good. So everybody's happy. And me specifically, back in the car after 6 months absent, and still, happy place to be. So yeah, it's been a very positive 2 days.
And then, of course, there was the incident with the Fox, and there's no better way to hear what Sato thought of it than hear from the man himself.
Couldn't identify what it was, but it was something in there. It's very strange. It's not the car part, because it's
It was moving.
Yeah, it's moving. I mean, well, I couldn't say the moving because, we went to the 230 bar Spada. But it was something like, how could I say, it's more to like a natural thing. So, and it's landing too. So it wasn't part. And it was right in the middle of the corner. So, but very fortunate that, we both happily come back home.
Well, there you have it. That's the Open test for 2026 done and dusted. Now, I'm just going to break things up here. So the first page that we're looking at here is from the last session. Okay, so that's where Joseph Newgarden topped the timesheets with Palou, Daly, Ward following. And then you'll notice the people that didn't perform like I said that I expected them to today. Dixon down in 21st, and you go further down and find some of the other names that you'd expect to be up there. Hunter Ray down there a little bit. But what you were seeing also was a trend of Chevy more to the top as opposed to Honda or a mixed bag like we had yesterday. So fairly interesting overall. But that is just that session. So you've got to remember that it is only that session. Then if we look at the overall combined times from both days of the testing, it paints a slightly different picture. Rookie driver at the top. Now no one would have thought that in an AJ Foyt entry. Don't forget they've got the alliance with Penske. Then you're seeing Newgarden pop up there with the time that he did today. Then you've got Conor, Daly still there, consistent over both days. Alex Palou making himself known. Alio's back there. Dixon then falls into the top 10, which obviously came from that times from yesterday. So you're still seeing the fluctuation of things that have happened, and maybe that's the variance in the tests, because you're seeing people that performed well yesterday still doing well overall when combined for the 2 days of the test. So does it mean anything? At the end of the day, probably not. All we know is that everyone's in with a chance. 33 cars will start this year's Indy 500, not 34 for a bump or anything like that. That is the field of 33. The biggest factor now is what order do they start in. Well, there we have it. That's 2 days in the blink of an eye, been and gone for the IndyCar test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Something we cling on to for months and months and months, and now it's gone. It's a little bit like the race. There's this just excitement about May, and when you're there, the race just seems to go so fast, and then it's done for another year. But there's plenty to look forward to, that's for sure. The Grand Prix, as I said, won't be a form guide to what we're going to see at the 500. The cars go back to their other configuration rather than the Super Speedway configuration that we've seen them in with the small rear wing and the different front wing. But I think we can come away from this going, it's going to be very competitive. We've seen a fluctuation in the times over the last 2 days, especially today, and notably Honda today as opposed to yesterday. The conditions were different, so will that play a part? Traditionally, it gets warmer. But in saying that, last year was one of the coldest races in history. So there goes that theory. The wind always plays a part. Qualifying plays a part. The draw that you get in qualifying plays a part. Something else will happen to make the story of the Indy 500 for 2026 in the coming days and weeks. That's for sure. I have no idea. There are a lot of people that I think stand a good chance. I certainly still rate willpower as an outside chance on this one, because lots of things were being ticked, but I was a bit alarmed today again to see the drop off in Honda, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when qualifying boost comes along, because Chevy have traditionally been very, very good there. But if you want to say that, was it a Chevy failure in Jack Harvey's car? So there you go. We can counter everything both ways, really, depending on which side of the fence that you want to sit on. It's going to be great for people that watch the podcast that I might catch up with in Indy. Really looking forward to that. We'll stay in touch on the chat and the comment section within the shows, and we'll plan something for either Indy or Detroit. Really looking forward to that. For us, this will be the last show that we probably do in New Zealand before we head back to Indiana, and we'll be based in Indiana and then Michigan for the Detroit race as well for the next few weeks. So thanks once again for enjoying Racing World, for sharing it, for liking it and subscribing to it. Share it with other people. I really want just people to enjoy the sport. It's done a lot for me, and it'd be nice to share it with other people as well. So until we catch up again, thanks for watching Racing World.